Hello, Husky Nation. Welcome to Beyond the Bench, a weekly series where we sit down with each of our head coaches here at Bloomsburg University to get their thoughts about their program, themselves, and what it means to be a Husky. This week's episode is sponsored by PSECU. We would like to thank them and the rest of our corporate sponsors for their continued support of Husky athletics. I'm Dave Leisering, Sports Information Director here at the university. Today's guest on Beyond the Bench is the head coach of the women's volleyball program, Dan Kreiger. So first off, it's starting to sound like a broken record here, but how have you been able to stay connected and keep your team motivated during this unprecedented time?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same answers, I guess. Zoom is really our only choice, right? So nobody wants it, but it's what we've got to do now. So we've done several Zoom calls and, just tried to do some different things via Zoom. And then I've been trying to make phone calls, but, we have a big roster, so it's taken me some time to talk to them individually. But, yeah, that's what we've been trying to do anyway.
Hard to believe, but you're entering year 3 as the head coach of the women's volleyball program here. What were some of the factors that led you to your decision to come here to Bloomsburg and take over a brand new program?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest factor is that it's a brand new program. Like, it's not, women's volleyball is fairly well spread out in the collegiate ranks, so most schools have it. So having a school without it, is not that normal. So having a new program is really exciting. So it's not an opportunity you expect to get more than once in your career, I don't think, So that was probably factor number one. And then just some knowledge of the PSAC and, and knowledge of the university. Bloomsburg University actually competed there as a club volleyball athlete when I was in college. So I was familiar with the campus a little bit. And, but yeah, primary factor is just that it's a new program and the opportunities there are endless.
And you mentioned your knowledge of the conference. How has that helped you and the connections you made in the conference when you coached at Lock Haven? How has that helped you going into year 3? I think it's the amount of help it created initially is immense, right? Like just knowing somewhat of the recruiting landscape, and with this all being state schools for the most part, it's highly competitive recruiting in state. So you have to find some things that are going to stick out a little bit for you and your institution and your program. And, but yeah, I mean, just the overall scouting of the conference and things like that, like having knowledge of what that looks like and understanding what the schedule format looks like. Cause it's a bit of a grind in conference play, so just having some experience doing that allowed me to prepare kids, a little bit differently, a little bit better, I think initially because, our roster year 1 was virtually all freshmen. So, so having that experience and then having Sarah Gomish there who is, who went through it as well, so just that prior knowledge made a big difference. I think I can't imagine what it would have been like coming in as a brand new program without that knowledge, you know what I mean? So that would have been it's already an uphill battle, I think, but without those years at Lock Haven, I don't know that I would have been able to hit the ground running quite as fast as I did, but. Talk about your process on the recruiting trail over the first couple of years, and what were some of those selling points that attracted the quality student athletes you've brought in to help get the program off the ground?
Yeah, well, the first year was, I don't know, it was literally hit the ground running, right? Like that was all I did. I'd never been to more high school volleyball matches in my entire life. Yeah, I mean, that's all I did. So 2, 3, 4 nights a week, I was driving to high school matches, which is not the norm for recruiting, because normally we're in season as well. So, so that was a little bit different, but I was, heading to the office and taking off at 3:00 in the afternoon and driving an hour or 2 or 3 to get to a high school gym and watch volleyball for sometimes 45 minutes, But the selling points were a lot easier than I would have anticipated. Part of that is just the university. I think that, in the PSAC, Bloomsburg's unique in the size of the school. Like there's not so many schools that are higher in enrollment, at the level that Bloomsburg's at. So that creates a little bit different of a vibe, especially for the in-state kids that are familiar. And then honestly, it was just about getting them to campus because, I mean, I've never been at a place where you have a deal closer like campus like ours is. It's just athletic facilities, just the overall aesthetics of campus, and that created a lot of easier conversations when it came time to make decisions. And I think just the fact that it was a new program, I mean, I don't remember the exact timeline from when it was announced the program was starting until I was hired and able to start recruiting. But when I came to work the first day, Dr. McFarland handed me a folder with, I don't even know, it's like 25 or more questionnaires that kids had filled out online already. So like the interest was brewing before there was anyone there to brew it. You know what I mean? Just by you putting out a story on the internet, on the website, like people were just, current students that wanted to play, high school students that were interested in the university. So those were, that was the initial stuff. And then you get into like some of the majors that are offered at Bloom that are not as typical, so the speech pathology, the interpreting and ASL, programs and things like that, the nursing program, so some things that set us apart as a university, super helpful in that process. But really it was just a word of mouth. And again, falling back on that, my, not just my time at Lock Haven, but my time, I'm from Pennsylvania. So, I literally made, I don't even know. Thank God we're past the time of, per call cell phone plans, because I was, hitting that hard, trying to just make every connection, letting people know that we had a program, and that we were starting and the plans of it, so I went to every opportunity I could to speak with anybody that had any interest or knowledge of volleyball. So it was just really a sales pitch of, like door to door, like variety almost, but a lot of it ends up selling itself. And I think still to this day, like there's a lot of that goes on. It sells itself, and we, we're certainly are looking at recruiting a little differently now after that first initial roster, but we've got kind of a plan established now. And like you said, we've been lucky enough to bring in some really high quality student athletes as well. So, academically they're performing, obviously athletically, I think they're performing. So it's a little bit more of the people are aware of the program. And now, honestly, it's the young ladies in the program that are selling the program and bringing people here. So we try to, put them out in the front lines and let the potential recruits see them and go from there. But that's our plan. And that's, I think, what is working for us, and then everything else now is, just added bonuses. The university, the academics, all of that stuff is now adding in to make it a little bit more of a complete picture. We certainly had to paint the picture initially, and that was a new thing for me. I had to talk a lot about what my vision for the program was and really sell that part, because I didn't say, well, last year we did these things and look at the history we've had here, and that's not the case, so I've been lucky to coach in some programs that have a really nice history. And so you can point to trophies, hanging on shelves and stuff like that. And we didn't have that to do. So I had an office with a desk in it, and we had to go with that. But it's been a really neat experience. And I think the most unique part of it is how it's changed in the three or so years, the whole recruiting part of it, because now we've got, that first class will be their juniors now, and to see them change and grow and kind of, I guess shape the program, in the mold that they want it to be. And that's been my favorite part of the whole process, even in recruiting, because now it's, my stamp is certainly on the program, but it's the girls that we've brought in we've given them the opportunity to direct that. So now I get to sell their vision for the program, and that makes it a lot more fun to me. So it's been really enjoyable.
Senior night in a couple of years is going to be senior week, I think. So.
Yeah, it's going to be you better bring a backup for the announcer. You're going to lose your voice, I think.
So what were your realistic goals coming into taking over a new program? And do you feel the program is where you hoped it would be going into year 3?
Yeah, I don't know if I had realistic goals, to be honest. Year 1, I had no idea. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I knew our team that we had in, I knew that I thought we were really talented, and especially when you consider we were a first-year program, I felt like our talent level exceeded that norm. But, the PSAC is a tough conference, so it wasn't like I was like, yeah, we can come in and, win 12 games in conference and, like put ourselves in a conference tournament, So I think we went in with expectations of let's keep our head above water and, find our opportunities to strike. And, realistically, I don't know that I anticipated we'd win games, because we didn't necessarily put together an easy schedule out of conference either. I kind of went into the scheduling aspect of it as, let's take some lumps so that we're ready when these kids are juniors and seniors, and I think we got beat up at a couple points, and year one, we played at the moment, #1 nationally ranked team in a tournament early in the fall. And, and to the girls' credit, they held their own, and so I think, honestly, my realistic expectations going into year one were get to all our games and make sure we know where to stand on the court. And, that sounds very elementary, but like, that's kind of where your brain's at because it was such a big undertaking, to get everybody organized, and with a big roster, it was such a crazy idea. But yeah, I think we, after those first few preseason weekends, those fall tournaments, the first year, I think our expectations changed a little bit, and we felt like our goal was then to be able to compete with everybody in the conference. We knew that we probably weren't on the level to be able to beat some of the perennial powers, but we felt like we should be able to get in there and compete and find opportunities to score points. And we were, the girls were figuring out what they're good at and learning how to score points using those things. So I think that probably that vision or that, I don't know, expectation changed as we moved through that first year. And then, year two, I think we came in with high expectations. We were pretty excited about our recruiting class, and we felt like we had a really good opportunity to improve. And that's kind of where we're at. We're still in that, like, let's just be better than we were before, better than we were yesterday kind of mentality. And I think that, to be honest with you, I think we're ahead of where we should be. From a coach's perspective, we're not where I want us to be, if that makes sense. I think that when you look at, just on paper, who we compete against on a daily basis and the level of volleyball athlete that we're competing against at the junior and senior level. And, I'm throwing out sophomores and freshmen for the most part. We had Sarah was a super senior first year. And then, last year we had a junior on the floor, and, like, it was just everything else is freshmen and sophomores when you look, for the most part. So when you compare that, I think what these girls have been able to accomplish is really impressive, and they've bought in, and they've bought into training, and they've done all that. So that's making my coaching expectation higher. They've set the bar, they've set, we call it the standard, they've set a standard that they have to try to meet and exceed regularly. And it's way beyond where I would have thought we were going to be piecing all this together from the beginning. So, I don't know. I guess realistically we're ahead, but from my seat, we need to get some stuff done, and we're ready to compete at the highest level right now, so hopefully we make those things match up.
So how would you describe your coaching philosophy, and who's had the greatest impact on your coaching style?
Yeah, I hate this question. I don't know.
Sorry, you want to edit this out? Is that...
No. I just never know how to answer, because I don't, I know what I want to teach and how I want to teach it, but philosophically, like, as a coach, like, my philosophy is like, let's score more than the other guys. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just that, and I try to keep everything that simple and that basic, and that is, I guess, part of my philosophy is I believe in the fundamentals of the game. And I believe that, if you can out fundamental every team you play, then you have a chance of being in every match. And then if you can add some pretty special athletes on top of being fundamentally really good, then you have a chance to win matches. And then if you can find a stroke of luck at the same time that you're being fundamentally good and have some pretty special athletes, then you might beat some really good teams, But I think that, my general lifestyle, my general personality is just to do the work, so that's kind of, I guess, my coaching philosophy is we just are going to do the work. Sometimes it's easy work, and sometimes it's really not glamorous work, but the work that needs to be done to get where you want to go. So there's not a shortcut. There's not a magic formula. It's just work that needs to be done. And I think that that's really helped us from the beginning here, because that's all we had to do. We had we couldn't worry about what we'd done in the past because we had no past, so I think doing that. So we just came in and hammered fundamentals. And so that's probably my coaching philosophy, I guess, is just keeping it as basic as you can and not trying to overshoot what your abilities can carry you to. I think my biggest influence is Dr. Carl McGowan. He was the men's coach at BYU and had a huge impact internationally. And he's one of the best, most, famous volleyball coaches that you can find in the volleyball world, I think. But he had a tremendous impact on me, not only on the quote unquote X's and O's of volleyball, but just on how to do the job. And he had a quote that changed my life. He was helping me with a resume and an application process. And I told him I was going to send him my resume over at one point in time, and I didn't get to it, and it took me not until the next morning. And he wrote back in a typical fashion and said, "Dan, do what you say you will do, Carl." So that's, so that quote changed my life, and it actually hung on a bulletin board in my office for years. But just that idea of, getting the things done that you need to set out to get done. And so he has a big impact, and I've been blessed to be around a lot of really good volleyball people and really good coaches, so I think there's a lot of influence. But my friend Megan Wargo Carney is the assistant coach at NC State now, and she and I spend a lot of time talking, and she's been a wonderful influence on me. And a guy named Terry Trude, who is the head coach at my high school at West Branch High School. So he actually taught me how to play the game of volleyball. And so he's had a lot of influence on me. And then it's just been probably atypical for a lot of people. My coaching has not come from mostly like big time coaches. My coaching's come from family members that helped me as an athlete when I was in Little League and stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff is not probably a typical route, that other people would find, but it's been what's worked for me. And honestly, Dave, a lot of it's come from some really bad coaches that I've had throughout my life too, so I guess learning what not to do, right, is just as important sometimes. But yeah, I think it's been an atypical path, for me, as far as becoming a coach, and not something I intended on becoming, but I think there's been a lot of people that have impacted me in a small way along the lines. And, those people I mentioned are much greater of an impact for me.
What can we expect from the Huskies when we're able to take the court again?
I think you're going to see a little bit different of a style of volleyball just because of the way we've been able to progress recruiting. We're continuing to try to get a little bit better and faster offensively, and we're able to do some things. And we've been lucky enough to bring in some size. So I think we're making our presence known at the net a little bit more. But I expect that you're going to see the same style of just grind out volleyball. We're going to work hard for every point. We're going to, serve really tough, hopefully pass serves really well, and, we're not going to try to be fancy. We're just going to try to work our way to the finish line. You're going to see some exciting new faces for sure. I think our freshman class was really talented, and I'm really excited to get them in the gym and see where they can take us. And then some of our returners really did the work in the off season. So I'm really excited to get back in the gym and see how that's paid off. We had a really good beginning of our spring semester there before we got shut down. And some of them have come back really fit and ready to go. And you can tell their hunger is there. And, the girls worked really hard on some culture training, and that stuff has been really good for us over this extended break. So I expect it to be exciting. I definitely anticipate us being better, and I think we're getting close to being ready to make that jump to be able to put ourselves with the top teams in this conference, and that's obviously our goal. So hopefully we'll get there soon.
Let's have a little fun now, Coach.
All right.
Let's get to know.
We weren't having fun before.
Well, we were, but let's have a little more fun. More fun. All right. So, okay. Favorite sports teams. I know the answer to one of these, but
yeah, for sure. The Chicago Cubs. I've definitely have been a diehard Cubs fan for most of my years, and not a front runner. I sat through the misery all of those years in the 80s and 90s. So I just had a little bit of a payoff a few years ago, but that's it. But yeah, I'm definitely a Cubs fan, and that's really it as far as like teams that I'm diehard into. I had a couple athletes. I was a big John Elway guy, so I followed the Broncos pretty regularly when he was there. And then, I honestly like, this sounds stupid to say, but like Team USA, I love watching the Olympics and obviously our Olympic volleyball teams and stuff like that, but that's kind of where it's at. And, where I grew up, I have a little bit of an affinity for Penn State volleyball. So I like to get there every chance I can, but yeah, I'm a Cubs guy through and through. So.
We talked about it a little bit beforehand. I'm a Braves fan. We were kind of hoping to talk Cubs Braves this week, but didn't work out that way. Maybe next year.
Yeah, that's on me. Sorry.
You mentioned John Elway, but any other sports role models that you had?
Yeah, Andre Dawson was my guy as a Cub, like when he came to the Cubs and had, a good run there. So he's probably my favorite athlete, definitely favorite baseball player. And like 80s and 90s kids, you got to go with Michael Jordan. Like there's no way you can't go with them. And then in the volleyball world, there are some people, Karch Karai, obviously he's probably the most famous volleyball guy, but he was always fun to watch, especially on the beach in those days. And there's just some other guys that are there now that are, I don't know if they want to call them heroes, but man, I sure like to watch like our men's national team right now, Matt Anderson and guys like that, they're just, I love the way they play and the way they handle themselves, throughout the business of being a professional volleyball player and an international player. So it's just fun to watch and watch the elevation of our, national teams. So,
what movie you popping in some evening?
If it's on TV, it's Shawshank Redemption. I can't go to bed if that comes on late at night. So that's always a tricky, time. If I'm scrolling through channels at midnight, if it comes on, I know I've got myself a couple hours till I can go to bed. And then I'm a stupid comedy guy. So like Anchorman and, Will Ferrell movies and even back into the like Airplane and the Naked Gun movies and stuff like that. So that's my wheelhouse, those kind of movies, the Chris Farley movies, back in the day. So, but yeah, Shawshank's the one movie probably that if it comes on that I'm definitely sitting down and watching it.
That stupid humor movie. That's the reason why you were hired here. I had a
yeah. I've got some expertise there. So if you need it, let me know.
Favorite food?
I don't know. I think all of them, right? Like, I had more trouble with this question than any other one on the list, even more than the coaching philosophy one. I mean, I'm a steak guy for sure. I love a good steak, but I think pasta is pretty good. But I think my number one favorite is Giordano's Deep Dish Chicago. Like, I think that's probably the top of the list for me.
Favorite musician, band that you're into?
Yeah, this is probably pretty off the wall too. So I think my number one, I'm a big Beastie Boys fan. But I think right after that is probably Frank Sinatra. So it's not a normal progression probably, but I have a pretty unique collection of music, I think, there too. So I love the Beastie Boys. I love 90s hip hop, but I love Frank Sinatra and country music. And, so just music in general has been a big part of my life. So I think that there's a foundation in appreciating a lot of different styles. But
I know it's fun walking past your office and you try to figure out what's going to come on next.
Yeah. I get some looks sometimes with people standing in there. It'll go from a Garth Brooks song to Godsmack or something like that, or Snoop Dogg, so I get some pretty unique looks when people come in or walk by. Definitely. That's probably not the best thing to have right in the front of the building there like that,
right? So if you could meet anyone, past or present, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Yeah, that's a tough one too. Like, I think, obviously there's some family ties, the stuff, like I never met either of my grandfathers. So I think that would be a really cool opportunity to meet them and talk to them. But, they were both gone before I was born. So that would be cool. I would love to hang out with the Rat Pack. I think that would be, I don't know, just something about that I think it's such a really crazy time in the world, when everything was changing like that. And I feel like that would be a ton of fun to be able to see and hang out with those guys. Conversational wise, like the sports heroes and stuff like that. But I'd like to sit down with Michael Jordan and talk about his progression. And, it's overly publicized, I think, but there's some behind the scenes guys, I think, that would be fun to, Joe Madden, former manager of the Cubs. Like, I'd love to hear what he has to say. And there's a lot of people out there. I think that's a really interesting question, but But I would have to say, like, hanging out with the Rat Pack. I don't think I'd be able to hang with them, but it'd be fun to be around,
It'd be fun to give it a try, right?
Right. I'd be willing.
And finally, what's the best thing about Bloomsburg University?
Yeah, so I've been listening to you do these interviews, and like I always find it interesting, and there's been a nice combination of the environment and the people, and I think that my answer is just that. It's Bloomsburg University is the best part of Bloomsburg University. The people we work with are wonderful, especially in our department, but across campus. The students are outrageous. Like, they're just so like awesome to be around, and they love being at Bloomsburg. And then you just take into the campus and the amount of care that's put into it by an institution, and the location of it. Like, I just think the overall package of what Bloomsburg University is what makes it great. Like, it's there's downfalls and shortcomings in everything, but man, they do a really good job of taking care of what needs to be taken care of, from making sure the dining halls are great and making sure that housing is great. And I think the people are the best part for sure, but I think that part of the reason that's the best part is because the overall package is just so high caliber. It's just a great place.
Dan, I know we were talking about it beforehand. Tough act to following Coach Shep on the football team, but it's been a pleasure talking to you, and pleasure watching you coach this team over the past 2 years, and watching the program grow from start to where it is now, and looking forward to what lies ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate all you do too, Dave. So thank you for putting all this together and supporting our program. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So I'd say let's do it again, but let's maybe hold off on that.
that's what a lot of people say after we end recording here. So.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you I didn't enjoy it, but I'm not going to tell you I want to do it again either.
Right. Yeah, I get that a lot. So,
yep.
Head coach.
When do you get to go?
What's that?
When do you go? That's what I want to know.
I don't get to go. People see me every week, so that's way more than what they bargained for. That's for sure.
No, I think we're gonna get Matt Haney to suit up and ask you some questions, or Bridget maybe.
One of them, maybe Rungo can ask me some questions.
There you go. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Both have about the same personality. So, head coach Dan Kreiger of the Bloomsburg University women's volleyball team. We could go on and on and on. We do have a good time, but we will thank Husky Nation for tuning in to Beyond the Bench this week. Join us again next week as we will visit with another Huskies head coach. We'd also like to thank PSECU for sponsoring today's episode. For information on everything Huskies, visit our website at buhuskies.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm Dave Leisering. We'll see you again next week on Beyond the Bench. Have a great day, and go Huskies.